Hi, welcome everyone to Nikki Loves Books. I'm of course Nikki, and today we have a book review of Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. I love this book cover, and if yours looks slightly different, it is because I have the Owl Crate exclusive. For my book reviews, there are no spoilers, so don't worry about that. I won't be ruining anything in the book that you couldn't figure out from reading the back cover or the inside cover in this case. So let's go ahead and delve into my book review of Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. We're going to start with the first few things that I did like about this book. Skin of the Sea is a young adult fiction novel that combines obviously fiction, but with mythology and actually history. It's a very cool combination. I think this book was really well done. Brief summary is that it's based in the 1400s, right about the time that Portuguese started kidnapping Africans, putting them on ships, and shipping them out to be slaves. So this book does have an undercurrent of a very serious matter, which is, of course, slavery. The book focuses on a character known as Simideli, also known as Simi. Simi is a mamiwata, also known as a mermaid in African culture. She serves the Orisa Umoja and is tasked with collecting souls of those who die at sea and blessing their journey into the next life. However, in her journey to collect souls, she comes across a boy who's thrown to sea and is not quite dead yet, and she chooses to save him instead of waiting for him to drown and collecting his soul. By making this choice, she does set off a chain of events. With this one action, she does, of course, breach the sacred contract that she was given and puts her Orisa that she serves and her fellow mamiwatas at risk of some severe retribution. So Simi goes on a journey with the boy she saved to right her wrongs and ask for forgiveness. In this journey, she is going up against the gods themselves to protect those that she cares about. So that is a brief summary of Skin of the Sea. I did give Skin of the Sea 4 out of 5 stars, or my preferred method, 7 out of 10 stars. I do like doing it out of 10, not necessarily 5, but you know, Goodreads is usually 5 stars. So we're going to jump into the first couple of things that I liked about Skin of the Sea. I'll talk a little bit about the negatives. Again, I don't go too much into that because I don't want to bash authors. And then we will wrap up with the last couple of things that I did like about Skin of the Sea. So stick here with me. So the very first thing that I loved about Skin of the Sea by Natasha Brown is it's about mermaids. Like, I don't know about you guys, I loved The Little Mermaid growing up. It's actually one of the reasons why I usually do my hair red was I love Ariel, loved The Little Mermaid. I'm pretty sure I was that kid that, you know, watched it all the way through as soon as it was done, rewind it. Yes, it was a VHS that I had. Rewind it, and then would watch it all over again. So I loved The Little Mermaid. So I probably would have picked up this book if I had heard about it before I received it from Owl Crate, simply because I heart mermaids. And funny enough, of course, Natasha Bowen put in her, I think it was the acknowledgments or possibly the author's note, where she mentions that, you know, she loved The Little Mermaid and was obsessed with mermaids from then on. And she really wanted to write a book that featured someone like her, so someone of African descent with dark skin that was a mermaid. And this is actually kind of how she moved forward with this book, was love for The Little Mermaid and just wanting to see herself as that. And so she started doing research and came across some mythology. The mamiwatas is literally the mermaids in African culture. Speaking of African culture, that actually brings us to number 2 of why I love Skin of the Sea. And that was actually because of the African culture inspiration. It was really cool to read this during actually Black History Month. I don't know if that was necessarily planned for Owl Crate. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was a really neat book to read during Black History Month because it is so heavily influenced by African culture. So there was a lot of African words in the book, as well as dishes, dishes that I've never had the pleasure of trying. Maybe I can look at recipes one of these days and actually do it, but having the African words that they use in their culture, as well as dishes, and then of course clothing and how they dressed. It was very, very neat to be educated in that small kind of manner. If you guys did not know this about me, I actually always enjoy books that have different cultures involved. One of the main reasons is that I'm very interested in other cultures, but I don't travel and I can't due to medical reasons. So I don't get to experience them myself in person. So I try my hardest to read books that have other cultures so I can experience it through reading at the very least. Number 3 that I absolutely loved in this book was the mythology. Obviously, mythology is very correlated with culture, but it can be an entity of itself. Just like a lot of us are, I'm pretty familiar with Norse mythology, but not a lot of others. And so it was really cool to read Skin of the Sea and have African mythology included. It was very neat to kind of get to know their gods and goddesses. And I've always enjoyed learning mythology, specifically because of all the different gods and goddesses, their personalities, their powers, what their domain is, what their story is. It's a whole world in itself. It was very interesting to get to learn about a different culture's mythology, which, again, African mythology is not something I come across too often in the books I've read. So that was a very neat piece in The Skin of the Sea. I think Natasha Bowen did an amazing job incorporating the mythology in a way that it was seamless. This book is a combination of history, mythology, and fiction. And I think she did a wonderful job of just layering it together and making a beautiful story. Before we jump back into the things that I loved about Skin of the Sea, we are going to be talking about the things I didn't quite like. I'm doing this as kind of a sandwich because I want to start on a good note and end on a good note. So I don't really want to talk about the negatives at the very end of my video. So we're going to put it right smack in the middle. And then we will get back to the other things I did enjoy. Before we jump into the negatives, I do want to remind you all that to please subscribe. I am trying to bring out my book reviews and book recaps as fast as I can. Unfortunately, I do work more than 40 hours a week, and I have my real life to take care of. So I know I'm a bit slow, but I'm hoping one day, if I can get enough subscribers, maybe I can just do this full time and actually have videos come out twice a week. So if you'd like to join me for another book review, future book recaps, please subscribe. I would love it. I love hearing from you guys. So feel free also to comment. I try my hardest to respond as soon as I can. All right, let's jump back into Skin of the Sea book review. So what are the things I did not like about Skin of the Sea? One of them is that I wasn't blown away. As much as I think this book was really good, I was very invested in it. It's not the best book I've ever read, and that's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If I remember correctly, I do believe this is Natasha Bowen's first book. So it could be that her next books moving forward are a lot more well-written, but Skin of the Sea, as good as it was not epic writing. It wasn't this huge epic fantasy that was anywhere near like Sarah J. Maas, at least for me. I know you're going to have a different opinion. So please, if you're interested in the book, I still highly recommend reading it. I gave it out of, 7 out of 10 stars. So it's definitely a good book. I just wasn't wowed by it. Again, going along with being, not being, the best well-written book that I've come across, I would say even the characters are a little flat. I did enjoy the characters, but they weren't very memorable. They weren't remarkable to me. They didn't stand out for any particular reason. But that's literally all the negatives I can really say about Skin of the Sea. So I'm like, all in all, I enjoyed the book a lot more than I didn't like the book. So keep that in mind. Like I said, if you're interested in this book, I highly recommend that you pick it up. Let's go ahead and jump back into what I did like about Skin of the Sea. So number 4, so if you guys are keeping up, we are on number 4 out of 7. So number 4 was actually the history component. I did like the fact that slavery was included in Skin of the Sea, not because I think slavery is a good thing, but the fact that we need to be educated on it. And Skin of the Sea is not a great educational piece. You know, it's not a history book. It's not meant to teach you all the horrors of what slavery was. But the fact that it's touched upon, because it's such an important piece of African history, the world's history, you know, I'm like, it wasn't just one country involved with slavery. There was a lot. So I did appreciate that fact because it is such an important thing for everyone to be aware of, that, you know, we did this to other human beings and it should never be forgotten because it should never be repeated. So I did like that component. I think it was really well done. I generally like young adult books that bring up serious topics in general, and it's because they can do it in such a way that you're not traumatized from reading it. You know, Skin of the Sea does have a trigger warning at the beginning of the book simply because it does touch upon slavery. I didn't find the book triggering at all. Some people might, just a heads up, but I really don't think it is enough detail to be very traumatizing to read. You can also skim. It's, you know, little tiny pieces in the book. It's not like chapters and chapters of, you know, the events that people who were enslaved went through. That I can understand being very difficult to read. Number 5 that I loved in Skin of the Sea was actually Simi's motivation. So if you guys have seen my videos before, I do sometimes go after the motivation of characters because I like it when I can relate to that motivation. If it's something that I'm like, oh yeah, I would totally do that for this reason, it helps integrate me a little bit more, helps me relate to the characters, and makes the story a lot more believable. You know, it's kind of harder to deal and get invested in a book when you don't really understand the character's motivations. Like, why are they going on this journey? Like, why are we walking to go dispose of a ring, Frodo? And of course, in Lord of the Rings, we know what that case was. But I'm like, I've come across books where I was like, I have no idea why we're doing this. And that's really hard for me to get into because I'm literally questioning the whole point of the story. Like, why is this happening this way? So I did like Simi's motivation, which is sacrifice. She's willing to sacrifice herself for her loved ones. And this is also in the sense of her taking responsibility for her actions. She did something that she wasn't supposed to. She was supposed to collect souls and give them, you know, blessings to move on to the next life. And she veered a little off course and saved someone instead, which, you know, like, I'm like, she's got some morality, which I'm like, I like it, I dig it, you know, I probably choose the same thing. Like, guy wasn't dead yet, might as well save him. So she's sacrificing herself for her loved ones to protect them. You know, again, it's not a needless sacrifice. It is, she's doing what she can to protect those she cares about. But on top of that, there is that personal responsibility. I effed up. I need to make sure I make amends. And that is literally her motivation behind what she does throughout Skin of the Sea. I do appreciate that. Makes perfect sense to me. Number 6, which might be surprising because it might contradict what I said in my negatives. Number 6 is actually the characters. So while I felt like they weren't very memorable, there were a lot of features in them that I did like. The 2 main characters that Skin of the Sea focus on is obviously Simi being one, but the second one is Kola. I like both of them for different reasons. And so Simi I enjoyed because she was unique in the sense of she didn't really fit in. She was a Mami Wata and she wanted to be human again. We find out all the other Mami Watas have, no issues. They're not going up on land to, walk around and be human. They have all accepted their current situation in life and will continue living as Mamiwatas, while Simi is unique and quite alone in that wish to go back to being human. For me, I found it very endearing, just like for Little Mermaid, I really not necessarily understood. I'm not a freaking mermaid or anything like that, but that feeling of being alone in your thoughts and wishes and feeling different from everyone around you, that I can definitely relate to. So I did enjoy that about Simi's character. Kola, I'm not gonna lie, I did not like when I first came across him in Skin of the Sea. However, I did appreciate that he's more than what he appears to be when we first meet him in the book. So there is a softer interior than the hard exterior that we see. And I do like that. And you guys will find that that's actually a very common theme in a lot of my book reviews, is that I do very much have a soft spot for characters who have that kind of prickly, hard exterior, but really gooey interior, and they care. It's just that they're very defensive of the world. They don't want their heart to be broken. They don't want to be hurt. They know life is not fair, and sometimes our favorite things get taken away from us. So a lot of times it's easier to kind of have that gruff exterior to keep more people at 20-foot distance, protect ourselves, and also to protect others from ourselves. Sometimes it's I don't want you to hurt me, but I also don't want to hurt you. I definitely relate to those types of characters, so I did appreciate that Kola was a lot more than what he appeared when I first met him. So I did love that dynamic. Finally, we are here at number 7 for Skin of the Sea, is that it is a series. So number 7 is that I'm really excited to say that there is a second book. I don't believe there's been an announcement of when that book is going to be published or what the book is even called. So that's why I'm literally just calling it the second book. I also don't know how long the series is supposed to be. I don't know if it's a duology or a trilogy, or if it's supposed to be on 3 books. I have no idea. But I am very excited that it is a series and there will be a second book coming out eventually. I will definitely be picking it up. So those are all 7 things that I loved about Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. Thank you all so much for being here. If you've read Skin of the Sea, please let me know if you enjoyed it as much as I did, if you had other things that you liked about it, if there was things that you thought were glaringly bad. If you haven't read Skin of the Sea, are you interested in reading it? Again, like I said, I would recommend it, but not the best book ever. So if you would rather read another book instead, if you have a really long to-read list like I do, you could probably put it on the back burner. You could also do what I do sometimes and wait until all the books in the series are actually out before you pick it up. Totally get that. Please know that I will be doing a book recap for Skin of the Sea. It will be linked below as soon as I get around to it. Thank you again for being here. I hope you guys all liked my book review, and don't forget to subscribe so you can join me for my next one. Thank you so much.